Hello, artist Charles Wolf. Glad you could stop by today. We're going to do another full-length painting video here for you from start to finish, an entire piece. So let's get to it. I started a few days ago doing this sunset painting, and you can see here that I have some alizarin crimson, some cadmium yellow medium, and some Mars black and blue. Well, the blue hit the yellow, turned to green. It was a mess. Yikes! Ugh. So I let it dry, and I'm going to use that as my base to start a new painting. I'm going to begin with my number 8 Filbert brush, and then I'm going to continue by putting on some cobalt blue, mixed with a little bit of the Mars black. Now I'm taking my brush and I'm just kind of scraping it side to side there and allowing the bristles to move and bend and work for me. Not a lot of pressure, just enough to get the paint onto the canvas board. Again, that's an 8x10 canvas board. Add a little bit of white to that mixture so we get some clouds going, and I'm just going to start putting this onto the canvas and blending it together. I think I'm going to let the sky go about maybe just the 1/3 top part of this painting. I'm not going to let it come down too far, maybe 1/3, maybe about half. We'll see as I go along. A bit more of the white, and I'm thinking I'm going to do a dawn painting, so I'm going to bring in some yellow here in a bit. And you'll have some light, and I'm going to kind of do a gradation from left hand side to the right hand side. So on the left hand side of the sky will be the sun shimmering luminously with yellow, and then on the right hand side you're going to have some of the darker colors and the richer blues and the black and the grays. So I need some of that contrast, so I'm going to bring in a little bit more of the dark color here, just tapping there to kind of get it to be an even coverage. And again, when I'm using this brush, a bit more blue, I am trying to let the brush do a lot of the work. I don't want to force anything. I want the brush just to do it, to move and be free, and I'm fairly relaxed when I'm doing this, and I'm just letting my hand twist around and make sure that I'm using all parts of my brush after I'm loading it. If you want to load that brush, all you have to do is just drag out a little bit of paint on your palette. I'm using Acrylic paints here, and you're just going to tap it and kind of drag it around a little bit to get a good amount on the brush, and you're ready to go. A bit more of the black on the right hand side, and then I'm going to come back in heavily with some of this white and lighten this up a bit because it is a sunrise, it is a morning sort of breaking forth, and we need a good bit of light because there would be a lot of light in this early morning hours. Alright, continuing to let the brush work and play, not too much pressure, you don't want to kill it, we're just dragging it across fairly gently. You can see that some of the red is actually showing through, and I like that. That gives it sort of a warmth to it. So actually starting with a base of the red and the yellow really helps pull this painting forward and together. I'm just working on shaping the bottom of these clouds a little bit, and I'm going to keep playing with that as I go along. When you do this painting, and if you're following along trying to paint with me, don't feel like your clouds need to look exactly like my clouds. They can be different shapes and different features and have different high spots and low spots. But the overall idea is that since the sun's going to be coming from the left, anything facing to the left should be very bright, meaning more white. And then anything that's going to be to the right should be darker, have a bit more of the gray and the blue mixed together. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to keep adding little patches of light white areas. And I'm going to try to get those patches in right after I reload my brush when there's a lot of the white and lighter colors on my brush. Then after it gets kind of muddy, I can go and work on the darker shadowy areas. Okay, a lot of light there. And I can see I'm bringing in a little bit more of the cobalt. It wasn't quite enough of a contrast for my liking, so I'm going to make sure that I have this contrast color. Clouds are fairly simple to do. You just need a highlight, you need like a midtone, and then have a nice dark shadow kind of in the background, and that'll help bring the whole thing together. And again, the highlight color should be facing where the sun's coming from. And I haven't put it in yet, but there's going to be a ton of this nice creamy yellow ochre on the left hand side, mixed with some titanium white. That's just going to be so beautiful and rich looking that I'm going to bring in and just lighten this whole thing up. Because it's still a little bit moody and dark, and I don't want it to be that stormy. I'm just bringing some of the cobalt blue to the bottom. I should mention my colors that while I'm doing this so you know what my color palette is. Here comes that yellow I mentioned. So I'm using yellow ochre. I'm going to be using alizarin crimson. I'm going to be using cobalt blue, titanium white, and Mars black. Those are the 5 colors that I'm using. I also have cadmium yellow medium on the canvas, the dried, but I'm not really using that, what I can remember, in this piece. I just have it that's kind of underneath, buried in that what is now my underpainting, i.e. the failed painting that I tried to do a couple days ago and decided to let dry. In all of this stuff that you're seeing here, that is yellow ochre, not cadmium yellow, to get that creamy yellow. Beautiful yellow, beautiful yellow. And I'm just going to blend this in gently. I don't want anything too sharp. I want it to sort of fade. So I'm letting my brush get dirty here, and I'm not going to reload it because I want that to start blending together. So any spots that I feel like it needs more yellow, I'm just going to toss it in. And it's okay if I cover up some of the clouds I already created, I can go back and add them. That's one of the beautiful things about painting this way, is that it's very free. There are really no mistakes. You just have to go back, and if you don't like something, you can always change it. It's not a big deal. A bit more of the yellow ochre here, and it's almost, it's not pure, but it's brighter, and it's a little bit more of it so that it really stands out and creates that luminous clouds. Ooh, here we're really bringing it in now. Ooh, that looks so pretty. Ah, I love it. Such a great color. Still letting my brush work and play. And some sweeping motions. And I'm just trying to blend this out so that it has a nice gradation as it moves from left to right. Here's more of the yellow ochre, a little bit more pure, so that it really vibrates and shines and shimmers in that sunlight, that morning sunlight. Right below this sky, I'm going to put in a beautiful mountain range for you, and maybe a few trees. And then below that will be the ocean. I'm going to immediately take and bring that yellow straight down. I want this to have a nice subtle gradation on the water. I want it to be fairly calm water. I don't want anything too active. So because I'm doing it this way, I'm going to immediately bring that yellow down. And then I can go back over and bring in the blue, the cool blue, and the grays and the whites and all that of the clouds into the water later. But let's start with that yellow. It's a good place to start. And I have it already on my brush anyway, so why not put it down there while we have a chance. Normally I work from top to bottom, and I'm very strict with that. It just helps me get a kind of a process and a flow going. But since I have this color, and I already know that I'm going to have the ocean down there, I'll just toss it down there real quick, and then I'll go back to work on my sky. Okay, blending this together, bringing in a little bit more of some darker colors here, a little bit more of the Mars black with a lot of white, and a little bit more of the blue mixed into that mixture. Adding some deeper, more pronounced shadows. If you want something to look brighter, put a shadow next to it, and that'll help. If you can have some contrast in your sky and in your clouds, it will really create some depth and some movement for you. And so when you're painting along here, if something doesn't look bright enough, sometimes making everything around it a little bit darker can be your ticket. You also can add more white, but be careful with the white because it's a dangerous thing. I've seen painters on YouTube and other places where they add a lot of white and it just gets washed out looking. Kind of, yeah, it's just, you need the color there to have a richness and a depth and a certain level of realism. So don't just always add white. Try adding more of the actual pure pigment, maybe add more of the yellow if you need something brighter before you just grab another bunch of white. It's just a tip. I don't like paintings that look very, like I said, white drenched. I don't want to be doing that if I can help it. Even though I'm doing a soft pastel type painting here with a good amount of white mixed in, it should never be like too dominant. You always need some real rich tones, some pure tones, primary tones even, here and there to really hold the painting together. One way I'm going to balance all this lightness is to bring in a real huge hulking mountain that's going to be fairly dark. That mixture there is actually a really pretty purple, and I achieved that lovely, lovely color by adding cobalt blue, Mars black, and alizarin crimson, of course, because the blue and the alizarin crimson will create the purple, and the Mars black will just take it and cool it down and get it to be darker. And I'm starting to put in the shadow for the mountain as I'm putting in the mountain. So I'm letting it kind of mingle down there at the bottom with the yellow. And that's going to actually lighten my color. So as I go along the mountains here on the right, I will allow some of them to be lighter. Then I'll go back in and make them darker again. And I'm just kind of balancing them out. Now when I first started this, I thought, oh, I'll do a bunch of trees here. But as I started putting in the highlights, I said, you know what? Let's make this a mountain range. They will become less tree-like. I'm putting a lot of tree shapes in right now. As we go along, they will become less tree-like, and they will look more like mountains. For me, I think they're more mountain-like. than tree-like. I could be wrong though, so in the comments if you think they look more like trees, let me know. I could be wrong. Oh, my canvas is wiggling there. I'm just pressing straight down. I'm going to do some horizontal strokes and sort of straighten that edge up a little bit. Whenever you're doing water, it's important to have these sort of straight edges. Water doesn't usually bend and curve too much. It may a little bit, but I like having some straight edges here and there. And things can curve, but they need to be happening with straight lines. And I think it looks a little bit better if you do it that way. If you disagree, that's okay. You can always try something different, and I'm always learning. So when I'm doing this, I'm experimenting and trying new things and learning how to do new things all of the time. That's how I learn, and that's how I grow as an artist. So if you see something and you're inspired by it, give it a try. And if you want to try something different, by all means do so. Experimentation is the way forward, and you never know if you can do something until you try it. If you've never painted before, grab a paintbrush. Get a canvas board like this. You can get a whole pack for a couple of dollars. Buy some acrylic paints. You can get some basic ones that are for 20 or 30 bucks. You can get some basic colors, and away you go. Let your imagination go wild. Watch these painting videos here on my channel, on other channels, and try to learn all you can. Just try painting. It's really a lot of fun and a lot of joy. I'm going to take and put some horizontal strokes there on the water just to kind of smooth it out and make it look more glassy. And then I'm starting to put in the highlight color on my mountain here with that, again, that creamy yellow ochre mixed with titanium white. And I'm going to put on a lot of white there because that ridge is actually facing the sun. So anything that's kind of facing towards the sun, I need it to be nice and illuminated. Okay, putting in a few things there. Now that's gone a little bit too much, I think. So I might go back in and add a little bit of dark right there in the center. I think that's facing towards me rather than facing back, so I have too much there. And that's okay. See, I can just take a little more of the purple and blend it together, and it will look really, really great. Now here comes some more of the dark. I'm going to bring that in. Yeah, there's the dark right there, the purple again. Sort of cover up a few of these spots because it went a little bit too light there in the middle. Yeah, there we go. Now it's starting to look right. Now they look like mountains because I added that purple. Great. Okay, fixing the bottom of this range here so it's kind of moving from left to right, getting farther away from me, and then I'm going to darken up right here at the bottom, this shadow here. Yeah, okay. Well, it's getting there. We're almost done. I was thinking about reflecting some of these, but then I realized, you know what? I didn't like the way it looked, so I'm probably going to go back and get rid of that in a second, smooth that out again. I mean, you want some reflections in the water, but it's easy to go overboard, and I think that as I was doing that, I realized, yeah, that's not right, quite right. I'm going to add a little bit of a water line here with the white, just using the point of my brush. A little bit thick, so I'll just smooth it out a little bit, and it starts looking like water. Very nice, very nice. I'm going to smooth that out. Okay, let's bring in a little bit more of the yellow to really make it vibrant, especially in the corner, kind of reflecting the sky. And then I'm going to bring in some of that gray and the cobalt blue just so that I have a little bit more contrast. Now, I'm not going to try to be overly careful with making the shapes exactly match. In fact, water is moving and it'll refract and it'll change and the light will bend and the shapes will change. So we don't have to be too careful with, at least for the type of painting that I'm doing here, with making sure the shapes match exactly. The more important thing is get the color right. If you can get the color right, we can buy these shape distortions a little bit better and a little bit easier. And we're done. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check out my blog at impulsiveartistry.blogspot.com. You also can buy my work on Etsy, so check that out. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you so much for watching and have a fantastic day.